Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday morning to you. Welcome. My name is the Brandt. This is Step Into the Portal, and today I'm starting something new called 5 Live Reviews. So I'm going to review 5 games for you here. So I love playing games live, and obviously I love playing board games and a whole bunch of different board games. But one thing I really love is reviewing, being able to talk about games. More than the review, more than saying this is good, this is bad. The ability to talk about the experience that a game is giving is what I really like. And for years I had a podcast called the Portal Gaming Podcast. And we were able to talk and review about a lot of games on there. But sadly that podcast has ended. However, there's something new coming. So stay tuned. This month, not even far away, and I will be having another opportunity to review games again. So, caveats. So first off, I want to say I played all these games. That's a weird thing to say. I played them all with multiple players. I played a lot of them solo just to kind of learn the games, to get extra plays in. Some of them also play solo, so I did the actual solo modes. These were all given to me by the publisher, so they're all review copies of the games. These are ones that are going to be tough to get on the channel and to show to you, so I wanted to be able to still cover them for the publishers, but some are large player count games, some are large player boards, some require a lot of time and whatnot. So these are all ones that I wanted to make sure that I covered and used for that purpose. I will also say that I like all of these games. So all of these games I think are good. So when I'm talking about the games, I'm trying to give you some of the things because I don't think anybody's going to watch this video and say, I'm going to purchase 5 new games and pick all of these up. So I want to find the games that are right for you, that make sense for you. And so I'm going to talk about some of the goods and bads of each of the game. But I will say that there isn't a negative review in this bunch. So if that's what you're looking for, we don't have them here. All right. So the 5 games are Hero, Tales of the Tomes, Oros, Mosaic, A Story of Civilization, Sniper Elite, the board game, and Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught. So let's start with the big one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 5-minute timer on my phone. And I'm going to give myself about 5 minutes to talk about each game so that I am not here forever with each of these. So we'll start with Onslaught here. I'm going to try to go to the overhead camera and kind of open the box and just pick through some pieces, but I'm not going to do a full layout of this is the game, and hopefully you can find some other places to do that. If you are with me live and you have questions, feel free to ask them, and I will answer them here. I'll extend past my 5 minutes if it makes sense. It's just something to let me know how much time has gone by. And then if you are watching afterward and you have questions, you can put them in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to you there. All right, here we go. First game is Onslaught, Dungeons and Dragons. So this is from WizKids. It is designed by Nicholas Yu and Travis Severance. So this is a pretty big game. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us here from WizKids. And this is really trying to encapsulate the Dungeons and Dragons. I believe it was 4th edition. I apologize. I don't play a ton of Dungeons and Dragons, although it's around me at the store all the time for sure. And so the big thing you're going to see in here is WizKids pre-painted minis. So it comes with this dragon that will piece together. I guess I won't spend the time putting it together, but you'll have this big winged young dragon that you'll have here. This is a 2-player game. Has a big board that folds out here, and you've got squares on there. It's a verse game, so it's a battle game. So you're taking your team versus the other team. What's interesting is you're trying to score victory points, so it's not an elimination game. You get points for eliminating the other player's team members, but you also score points for things like defeating the big bads, like the dragon and the kobold and the troll. And you can see a bunch of the other miniatures here as well. Here's the little kobolds. Right, so they all come pre-painted. They're not amazingly painted, but they're nice enough here and whatnot. So, yeah, and then you've got each team has their little miniatures as well here. So the big to-do are these player boards where you're going to have all of your abilities. And it's going to look very much like a game of D&D. Everything's going to be very familiar, but it's kind of been board game-ized, right? So things happen in turn structure, and things like that. All these little abilities have cooldowns, which is something I really like. So you trigger your ability, and it'll say this has a cooldown of... that one doesn't say. This one has a cooldown. This one has just a off-on cooldown. So this one has a cooldown of 3, so then I would set the dial to 3, and at the start or end of every round, I think, it ticks down, and so then 3 turns later, I'll have that ability back again, and I can do what it is. I track my health over here. This is very similar to their click style. So my health, my movement, and my defense value will change over time, and then I've got abilities on each of my characters. So the characters are very involved. There's a lot to do here. This is a little fiddly. I found that I didn't knock it around as much as I thought I would, but I also thought that I would have them kind of laid on the table in front of me here and just have my characters. And it was like they wrapped around this side and there were tokens. So there was a lot of table space for 2 players. One of the reasons it's hard to get this on camera as well. So the dungeons are really neat, and there's a whole bunch of different scenarios. And in fact, they are planning this for competitive play as well. And so you'll have a whole wide variety of scenarios with really cool things, like you're both doing an escort quest, or of course one of the final ones has you're going up against the dragon, right? And you're trying to defeat the dragon. But there's things like loot and bring back to your zone. So, killing each other is part of the goal. You can get points, but it's not the main thing. And then there are monsters about that can give you points or treasures or whatever. So really neat. So I really enjoy this. There's a lot of back and forth. The big thing is going to be the learning curve is huge. The controlling that many characters. Now, they do give you the very first scenario. You only control 3 of your characters. Each team has 6 characters. So you're going to pick 5 of your 6 for each one. There's no role-playing. So, yeah, you're going to pick 5 of your 6 characters for each scenario. So you might decide this is the character that works best, and you're going to find your teams. They also sent me more teams. So there's the Many Arrows pack, and there's the Red Wizards pack. So these come again with 6 more figures that you can go and collect. So you can kind of find your team. So it's in that tabletop miniatures dueling area. It really rewards repeat plays and finding your team. Like, I think that Red Wizards team would really be my team. But on a board game end, it's going to be trickier. It's a hard game to open, play on a game night, play with one other person that night. You're going to feel a huge length to the game until you've got it down. And even then, when you introduce a new person, there's so much overhead of reading. So playing with 3 characters can really bring that down. It would have been nice if they made some scenarios that maybe were just 2 characters or maybe 4. They have a lot on their website. They're expanding this game. They're going to tournament play, so they have like tournament rules up and things like that. So again, I think this is a game for somebody who really wants to dig into a game and make this their main game kind of idea. But I think if it's something you're looking to play casually, I don't think this game works as well. I will mention when you attack somebody, yeah, it's going to be my time. But I'm going to finish. Oh, it's not making noise. Make more noise. All right. When you attack somebody, you roll 2d20, so you always have advantage, and you take your higher roll. So it does make it easier to hit things, and you're trying to hit that defense number, just as you would in playing Dungeons & Dragons. So that is that. If it was something I was going to come back to, if it was something I was able to come back to regularly, I think I would rate this game a lot higher. So like I said, somebody who's really into Dungeons & Dragons, or somebody who's really looking for a miniatures game, I think even introducing this to a younger audience, like a family, especially if you're a family that maybe plays Dungeons & Dragons, this would probably work out really well for you, that you're taking this out to play. But for me, this game gets about a 6 out of 10. It's just not something that I can introduce somebody to easily, get in plays. I did get a play in with somebody at our store, a full play of it, and we did have a good time. They were a huge Dungeons & Dragons person, and they had a great idea of kind of making this into a campaign where people show up, and then, you create like a whole storyline that night. So 2 people play, and then you say, oh, there's a flood. So now that there's a flood, we as a group have to decide, blah, 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 blah. And I think really bringing some of those role-playing elements into it could make it a lot better. So that is Dungeons & Dragons Onslaught and those faction packs. All right, what is up next here? Let's go with this one. So this is Oros. Oros, most importantly, is designed by Brandt. So that's the first time I've seen a designer with my name, Brandt. And Oros is published by Lucky Duck Games and AESC Games. I'm not sure, that must be the European one, would be my guess. So Oros is an abstract tile shifting game. It's really quite interesting. You're going to have these player boards, so there's 4 different colors. I'm pretty sure the characters are all the same. Yeah. They're all the same here. But on the back, you have solo modes with varying levels of difficulty. And you need to have 3 players for this game. So a solo game includes 2 bots, and a 2-player game includes 1 bot. I did find those bots to be a little bit tricky. The game is very abstract in its structure. You're trying to get to the top of this tower, ascending. And what's really cool is you're going to place this board out. And you're going to have this board. It's double-sided if you want a bigger board. And then you're putting all these tiles on the board, and they're going to shift around. So I don't have a ton of the tiles here. I'll try to grab some different ones. And basically, you're going to take actions from your player board that are either going to shift a set of tiles or they're going to collide tiles into each other. And you're trying to eventually build these volcanoes. So when 2 things crash into each other, they kind of sum. So like this 3 and 4 would make a 7. So we'd get a 4 tile and then go from there, and we make this. And when 2 4s crash into each other, they make a volcano. And the volcanoes are then where you can take your pieces and you can build temples on them. And then other people can build temples. So it's like a 3-layered temple. You actually can't put the same color on it, but you build these little temples up. And you have your little meeples walking across. On your turn, you're using your player powers and your meeples in a way I really, really like. So the actions, again, I'm using the blue player board, the yellow pieces. But you can take these, you'll have 3 of them out, and you transfer it to a spot that's not currently taken, and you take that action. And then these are the actions as they upgrade. So you've got a little token that marks where you are. I have one right here. So this little token is telling me, oh, I do this. And if I move it up to here, now this is my threshold. This is my threshold. So that part is really quite neat. Yeah, the music is on my phone. Oh, I didn't hit start on this one. I guess I could put the timer there. Everybody's going to be watching the timer instead of me, though. So you get all these actions and you can upgrade. And then over here, it's going to be your endgame points. How much are you going to get for your temples and things? As you build those, what you're really trying to do to create the interaction is you're trying to move to the spaces where other people built temples and build on top of them. And then that gives each other bonuses, so it's incentivizing you to move. And then the other part of the tile moving that's really neat is that this is kind of a world, right? It's a globe, if you will. So if I shift this way, these tiles actually turn and kind of go here. They go this way, and they move around the board kind of in this circular motion. Same thing, if I push this down here, it comes in and comes up here. So there's really a lot, it's basically perfect information in this game. There's not a lot of randomness. And there are volcanoes that can explode to create new tiles. This board would actually have a bunch more tiles on it. I'm showing it to you very empty, but there'd be a lot of tiles on the board. And then you're trying to figure out how to shift and move, and then eventually you can move your people off of here onto the island, so you can have multiple people on the islands. And you're playing all that to get to the end game and then have the most victory points from what you have built up in your thing. Matt asked if I've tried the solo mode. I have. So that would be my first kind of barrier on this game is the game is tricky to learn. Like the idea of what you're doing is tough. And then the bots, while they simulate really well another player, they're very overbearing. It's a lot. There's new symbology with the bots. And then 2 bots feels frustrating. So even in the 2-player game, and I usually am not averse to bots, but these bots felt tricky to run. So this game, I think, plays much better at 3 and 4 players. Again, your mileage is going to vary. Abstract solo is not really my my main thing. So that's going to be a differential for me that might not be there for you. But the bots have different levels of difficulty, which is interesting. They have decks that you draw from, so they do help to create that. But I did find overall that the bots were kind of frustrating, and when we were playing in the 2-player game, we didn't even, let's not even score the bot. Let's just figure out how we've done ourselves. So there's kind of that idea. But yeah, there's lots of interesting ideas in here, and I love how this works. In fact, you can send things to the study, and then when they come back from the study, you gain wisdom, so that's how you move your little tokens up. And this is just so interesting, being like, okay, now I can move I can move 3 or more pieces. Now I can only move 2 pieces orthogonally. Now I could move a single piece in any one of the 8 directions. It's like, oh, that's so interesting. And here I can explode volcanoes, now 2, now 3. And then eventually, like, I can make the lava flow in any direction I want. I can control that. And then you're just getting victory points at the top of these. So there's just lots of interesting things you have. And you actually have meeples over here that as you get to that row, you unlock them. So now you have more meeples, so you can bring them out on your board and do the different actions. And I really love this. Like, if these were meeples, like, oh, I'm going to move here. Now this one's uncovered, so I'm going to move here. Now I'm going to move this one over here. Like, I love that ability to flow all around. So this one does a great job in giving you interesting choices and interactions and things. The frustration of trying to get things to work is interesting. I found that to be a little bit rough, and in teaching new people, it was kind of tricky. So it doesn't quite all come together for me, but I would give this game a 7. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas here. Again, for me, this would be a 3 and 4 player game because I found those bots to be a little overbearing. But you may find that of interest. So that is... I started that late. I feel bad. Like I didn't give it 5 minutes. But that is Oros from Lucky Duck Games and Brandt Brinkerhoff. All right. Can I reset this timer? Like that. All right. Cool. Next up, we have Mosaic. Mosaic is by Glenn Drover, and it's from his company, Forbidden Games. So again, like I said, all these were sent to me as review copies, so thank you to all the publishers for doing so. Some I picked up at PAX Unplugged as well. So Mosaic is a giant civilization game that's meant to be played relatively quickly, where you can get all the things done. Now, the biggest thing to note about Mosaic, well, actually, a couple things. So this is kind of the retail version, which is always what I prefer because, you know, it's usually for the store that I'm telling people, and this is what they're going to buy in retail. So, you know, unfortunately, the Kickstarted versions and all those things aren't as available to people as readily. So there are multiple versions. I believe there's 3 versions of this. There's kind of this, which is the small version. Then there's kind of a medium, and then there's like one that has all miniatures for everything. So that is that. The big thing to know about this, though, is there really isn't combat. Combat is really done by area control scoring. And this game is gigantic, so there's no way that I can pull this out. The board is... It's not bigger than my table, but it's as big as my table, which extends, you know, pretty... This is not a very big table, but it extends pretty large. So you're going to have that. But essentially what you're doing is you are triggering all these different abilities on cards. So you're drafting a card every turn. There are a few tiles and things you can gain. So you might take a tile or a card. Everything is wonderfully laid out in this game. It's really well done. And the graphic design is phenomenal. You've got this little reference card. Now, there's only one reference card, so this kind of has to get passed around. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they could have made more. Maybe in the bigger versions there are more. But you're going to start by seeding the board, and this is going to be a player board, but you're going to start by seeding the board with all these tokens. So there's going to be city spaces, and there's going to be harbor spaces, which are kind of cities, and then there's just going to be other spaces that get resources, goods, and other things of sort. And you put all those out, and many of them are blank. So then you flip them all over, and you remove all the blank ones. So I wouldn't say, yeah, probably 40% of them are blank, so it keeps a lot of the land where you can kind of just move through. Then you're just going to go through taking turns, so you're drafting all these cards. So there's going to be the tax and tariff cards, and the population cards to increase your population. And there's going to be, like, technologies. What is this? This is all technologies. And building cards, so you can get various buildings that you can put out. And projects. And then eventually there's going to be the wonders of the world. So you're doing all that stuff, but like I said, combat is not the most prevalent. The beauty of this game is how fast each turn is. I draft a card, I do my action, we refill the spot, it's your turn. And we keep going round and around and around and around until we trigger the end of the game. There's basically 3 scoring phases. So each deck is going to have an Empire card shuffled into it, Empire scoring. And at that point, you're going to score, and you're going to look at the majorities in each of the regions, including military and buildings, and figure out who has the most points and various other scorings that happen through wonders and things like that. So that is kind of the big idea. You're gaining resources all the way through. Everybody has a special power. So this one, for example, is the farmer. And the farmer starts with 10 food, 10 money, 1 farm town, 5 production, and adds a population to each population card they take. So they're really focused on population. So it's going to give you a pretty strong focus for what to do with your character, which is nice for people starting out. These are leader cards. And cards vary. Generally, in order to make a town, you're going to have to discard population, do various things. You can tax people and put tariffs on things, and that's how you can gain goods and money. But, of course, you can get some people... there's negatives in that you take... What is the negative thing called? Sorry, this one's tricky to lay out. This is the reason I couldn't get this on the channel as easy. Unrest, yeah. So unhappiness, unrest, and then unrest is going to give you negative points at the end of the game. There's also these various goals people are fighting for. So the first person to have 3 port cities will get 6 VPs. So my biggest issue with the game, I love the game. It's very fun. It's really neat. I like this edition. I don't need a box bigger than this personally. That's how I am. I mean, you can already see the thickness on that. Is as short as those actions are, there are so many actions. Getting to those cards takes forever. So all of my games have been 3 hours. Now, for a Civilization game, sometimes that's normal. Like a lot of games of this type in the past have been that long. But I see so many people talking about how they play this. They're like, oh, this game's so fun in less than 2 hours, but it just has never gone down in my plays. So it's always been a very long game. However, everybody I played it with has said, yeah, but there's something about that game. I want to go back to it. So even the length didn't keep us away, you know? That was kind of the idea. Man, I can't get that to be loud. All right. But that is my time on that. So, yeah, the negative has almost been like, I don't really care. The game is so much fun. So this one I give an 8 to. It's a really interesting Civilization game. It's one that I want to play again. If somebody said, hey, can you teach that to me? Yes. It's pretty easy to teach. It's not easy to set up. So that might be one of the issues that some people have. I'm discovering that setting up games is a big thing. I kind of consider setup part of the fun of the game. But that might make me a little weird, I guess. I think this needs to go on top. There's a lot of pieces, so the first time, you've got to try to explain to people where everything goes. But what's nice is as you're having people help you, you can kind of explain what the tokens are. So you can either pre-set up if you have a group coming over, or you can have the group set up their own things and kind of talk them through all the pieces, and now you've got most of your teach. Because then all you're saying is, grab one of those cards from the board, or you can do this tile, or you can place military on the board, and they're all really, really simple actions. So it's the sum of the actions that make the game, not any one individual action that must be known. So that is Mosaic, a story of civilization. All right, let's go with the little guy here. So next up is Hero, Tales of the Tome. So this is actually one that Larry, who people have seen on the channel, pointed out to me. It's by Jimmy Ellerth, and it seems like everything on here says talesoftheTome.com, so I think this might be the only game. In the rulebook, it says the designer's name here, Jimmy Ellerth Publishing, LLC. So, but you can go to talesoftheTome.com. So the big thing is right here on the back. No collecting, no deck building, just play. So this is a hero kind of wizard dueling game that actually works best multiplayer. So everybody's going to get a hero card here. And you're going to have various stats and levels. And then there's just a big deck. Now, there are some expansions for this that will add things. You also have these upgraded ability cards. I apologize, I don't remember what they're called. Yeah, I don't remember what these ability cards are called, but you get extra abilities. And then you've essentially just got a big deck of cards here. And the deck of cards is just going to be a common deck for all players. You shuffle it together, and players draw cards to start the game, and then you just go around. So everybody has health. It's got a pad here, but actually there's an app that can control everybody's health, and it's a really, really nice, simple app with good graphic design, so there's that. I will say before I jump in, the biggest thing, and it says it in the rulebook, is like it's not best at 2. It's a very swingy game at 2. It's intended to be where you're battling with people around the table. So that is the idea. Somewhere in here I know it says, don't play your first game at 2. Try to play it with more players. So that would definitely be my thing. It's essentially a 3 to 5 player game. The 2 is fun because you get to see all the cards and if you like card games, but there's so many things that duel well. And then there's these little tokens that represent your various abilities. So at the start of every round, players are going to collect resources equal to their current attack and their current magic, and if they have any defense values. Sorry, I should show you these a little closer. So you have these, and then you have levels. And levels are basically rounds. Every time a round goes by, everybody levels up. So you have a die in the center of the table, and it's saying that you level, and the max level is 8. So 8 rounds, then nobody levels up, and it's just, kill each other at that point. So you're going to have these various hero cards, and you're going to have allies that come into play in front of you, and they can defend for you. And you're going to have spells that you can play using your magic, rearrange target player's defenders so you can move things around, and then you're going to have quest cards, which I actually saw some down here, that get shuffled in, and when a quest comes up, you just pop it in front of everybody. There's also special items that people can go get. It might say, you can go get this item from this deck. I saw a quest card, but I don't see it here now. Oops. Yeah, here's a quest card right here. So these get shuffled in, and a quest comes up, and now anybody can complete that quest on their turn, and they get the bonus. So it's just kind of floating on the table there. So you're going to collect these little tokens, and you basically spend them. So I would say, okay, I'm going to deal a damage here, and I'm going to spend this magic here, and you can hold cards, so I could play magic on somebody else's turn, and I'm going to refill at the start of the round. So I'm kind of paying attention to, where's that? Is it fast-paced, is the question that Spartan has. No. I would say when players are looking at their hands, they're kind of taking their full turn. So in order to play cards, they have values here. So this is kind of your champion cost. So this is just a threshold. So, sorry, it's not a threshold. It is a value. So you look at your current level, and you have that many points to spend. So I'd have to be level 8 to play this card. But I might have some cards, like here's a level 1 and here's a level 1. So at level 2, I could play both of these cards on my turn. I'm spending those points. You don't have anything to track that. You just have to do that. You also have armor, so you'll prevent the first X amount of damage dealt to you that round. So it's interesting because it's going around, but everybody's resetting. So the player who goes last in that round, right, is trying to kind of hold out all of their stuff and whatnot. So it's interesting on that front. I don't actually know if you get tokens. I don't think you get tokens for attack. I think you just say, I'm attacking you. And you have to throw all your damage, but you can divide it amongst different players. It works really well. Like, usually those games, you're like, it's 3 players. We're all going to team up with one person, and they're dead. But it doesn't have you focus on doing that. The expansion also gives you other characters that you can get. And then as you level up, you're going to get these various abilities. So this character, does it tell me what level I get this at? But you pick one side or the other of each of these. Oh, they're right on the card because it says 6. So at level 6, I would pick, do I want Blood Prophecy or do I want Raise the Dead? So every time I play, I can pick different powers there, which would be kind of interesting. And then I've got a very mana-focused character. I've got a very defensive character, a very offensive character here, right? And you've got different styles that you can kind of play through there. Yeah, I mean, that's the main part of the game. You're just playing those actions. And then same with mana. You're spending your mana tokens every round. The interactions become really interesting. You kind of team up with people, but it doesn't have that blunt, like, let's just beat that person over the head and they're out of the game. There's a lot of ways to heal. You get interesting cards. The allies protect you. Really, really fun game. I think this was like Larry's favorite game that he grabbed at PAX Unplugged, and then I went over to the designer and they said, sure, take a copy, let it be known. So that was really nice of them, and I got a chance to play this in some higher player counts. So yeah, it works really well. The 5-player game is a little bit long. That would be the other part. So again, it probably favors a little bit better at 3 and 4. And like I said, there's an expansion that adds some other elements to the game and some other heroes in it. But I really like this game a lot. This game is a 9. This game's really fun. It's in this little box. You probably have to order it from the publisher. But this is a great game if you just have some people coming over, kind of a beer and pretzel style game. It's just, I didn't believe Larry when he said this game's really fun, you got to try it. And then I played it with him at PAX and got a few other plays in, and it really is neat. The biggest being the 5-player game is a little bit long, and the 2-player game is very swingy. So, I mean, I don't think 2 players is a bad way to learn if you're not, butthurt about the swinginess of the game. Cool. That is Hero Tales of the Tomes. You can go to talesofthetomes.com. All right, and the last game for the 5 live review is Sniper Elite, the board game. David Thompson and Roger Tankersley. David Thompson definitely making a name for himself in board games. He's designed a lot of stuff like Undaunted. Now it's all gonna slip away. Anyway, Undaunted, that whole series with Osprey is one that comes to me. This is Rebellion Unplugged. So this is based on a video game. This is where I start to slide a little bit because I don't know video games, and then I find out that things are based on video games. And yeah, so this is a one versus many board game. Can you actually play with 4 people? I have not. So you can also play this solo. So you are trying to sneak around this facility. There's 2 sides to the map. Or you are trying to catch the person that is sneaking around. So let's see. This is the starter one, right? Yeah, with the submarine. So you've got this map with all these spaces. They are not hexes, so a little bit hard to see, but these white lines define a space. So some wrap around a corner, and then there's buildings that you're inside, and there's little arrows to show you these are the entrances. And so you're going to have a map if you are the sniper, and you're going to be marking with with a marker where you're going. You basically have 2 objectives to complete, and there's pretty cool miniatures. They're pretty easy to set up each time. So you've got 1 miniature that is the sniper right here, and then all of these are going to be the various squads that come out. So you'll grab these cards, and this is the 9 of diamonds, booby trap the vehicle depot. So I would find 9 on the map, which is over here, and this would be the place I'd have to go. This would be the place I have to sneak and then take a turn there, taking an action, and I can remove that spot. I would complete that objective. When I complete that objective, I only have to get to my second objective, and then I will win the game. I have 10 turns to do so, because every turn for the defenders, they're going to have little cubes that are going to move down the board. So these little cubes are going to have 2 cubes, 1 for each action for each of the squads. Actually, I have 6 cubes. 2 yellow, 2 red, 2 black. And they take an action and move them down. And if it ever gets and drops off the 1, I lose. I took too much time. There's a little health token here that's marking. Now, I am a sniper, so the other thing that I'm allowed to do, I guess I'm going from that angle, is I have this bag, and I can say, all right, I'm going to shoot this unit. So this unit is sitting here, and I am here. And so I can go 3 spaces away, and so I say, all right, I'm going to shoot them, and I draw... I pick a number. So let's say I say 5, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't have the bag set up, but I would need these little target reticles. So if I get 3 of these, it would be a success. These ones mean I make noise, and these recoil mean I'm going to possibly fail. So this could make them aware if I draw a certain number of these. I apologize, I forget the thresholds. But if I draw a certain number of these, and I think you only start with 1 or 2 of these in your bag, so you don't risk it as much, then I have to actually put my miniature on the board, because that's one thing I should mention. I'm not on the board. I'm on that sideboard. I'm not here. But I would have to say, oh, this is where I shot you from. You found out where the noise was from. And then these can make me misfire if I draw too many of them. As I defeat enemies, I actually get more of these in my bag because they start panicking, so that's a way I can do that. And then as I complete objectives, I get more of the... I can't remember if it's the recoil or the noise tokens, but one of these goes in my bag. If I take out the leaders, then I'll get even another bonus tile that I can put in there. And then lastly, each of the squads has a special ability. So you can choose the squads you want to recruit, which makes the game replayable. So here's the Kennel Master with a dog, the Medic, there's a sniper group. So they'll have a special ability that I can use. I believe it's twice per game. So I take their little cube off of there to show that I use their abilities. On the defender's turn, they're basically trying to move around. They can scout, they can check, they can sweep certain areas that are adjacent to them and say, are you here? Are you here? Have I found you? And then if they are in your space, they can attack. And if they get you, they deal a damage. 2 damage will kill the sniper. And then, in addition, the sniper has loadouts. So they have items like sound masking, silenced ammo, the Tommy gun, the S-mine. They've got all these different things they can bring with them. So you can really change the replayability each time. The solo mode, I believe you can only play from the perspective of the sniper, and you use this set of cards. and you draw cards to figure out where the enemies are going to go. I found that a little bit much, but what's beautiful is you got these 2 tiles. Here's what the defenders can do. There's my time. Here's what the snipers can do. And then you just switch it. All right. So in solo mode, this just tells you what the solo defenders do, and this what tells you you can do as a solo sniper. It does change up a little bit. So really interesting on that front. Really neat hidden movement game. Hidden movement isn't really one of my favorite things, but this is definitely one of the better ones. It's definitely one of the shorter ones. The very first game, the overhead is okay, there's some things to know there. But after that, your future plays will be so simple. What's tricky with teaching hidden movement games is everybody has to know all the rules, because it's hard to suddenly ask the rules in the middle of a game. But I don't think that's a big detriment in a game like this. It's pretty fast. It's maybe not 30 minutes, but it's right there in that 30 to 45 minutes. So unlike some of the other hidden movements that run over an hour, this one is much shorter. Of course, you could change that. Oh, the solo mode will also come with this board, and you will roll a die in order to figure out, I guess this is one I could have shown off on the channel on solo mode. I didn't think of that. But you roll a die to figure out which of these cards that you trigger and whatnot. So, yeah. So, really neat game. I'd give this one an 8. It's really fun. I like the brevity of the game. I like the simplicity of the actions. It kind of leads to everybody playing each other. And Eric is commenting on Scotland Yard, which is kind of I think it's attributed as the first hidden movement game. So this one definitely plays well. It's definitely interesting. There are expansions. I believe there was a Kickstarter or crowdfunded project for this, and so there's a lot of other things you can add, probably other boards, probably other factions, more minis, maybe scenarios of some sort. Maybe there's some kind of mode. I don't know. But I've got the base game box here, and it plays really well. You've got 2 maps as well, so there's a map on the other side that you can play. And this is one I could see playing and then looking at my opponent or opponents and saying, let's switch that up. Okay, now I'm going to be the sniper and you be... And I could see making almost an evening out of playing this game. If you got 3 people, playing it 3 times, giving each person a chance to do that. There are separate rules and solo mode rules, so that makes it really easy. But all in all, yeah, it's a great package. Great box. So that is Sniper Elite, the board game. That brings us to the end of all the games. So, recapping there, Sniper Elite, I gave that one an 8 out of 10. Hero ended up being my favorite one. Tales of the Tome, that's a 9 out of 10. Let's see, Oros, I gave a 7 out of 10. Onslaught, I gave a 6 out of 10. Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught. And then finally, Mosaic. Oh, gosh. I gave this one an 8 out of 10, a civilization game that I thought was really fun. So there are those games. What's hidden here? Onslaught. There we go. All right. There are all those games. If anybody in chat has any questions about any of the games, I can answer those now. If anybody watching later has questions, you can put them in the comments, and I will try to answer those for you. But I'll see what pops up here. Spartan says... Oh, Eric says, good reviews. Thank you, Eric. Spartan says, Sniper Elite was the only one I was aware of. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part. There's a lot of board games these days, so... There's that piece. But, yeah, this one here, this was really neat. Like I said, I liked all of these games. So, I mean, the lowest one here was a 6. And I think this definitely fits a certain category if you're looking for that kind of miniatures-based game without having to buy and paint miniatures and all that stuff. And you're really into D&D theme. I think that game's going to make a lot of sense. Where did this game go? I think this is the funny one because I think this one, I enjoyed this so much because I love card games and all that. But I could see people not being as into something like that, but it was really fun. I really liked the interactions on that. And then, yeah, like I said with this one, it took a long time to play, but it felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting a lot done, taking these little tiny actions, but it was like, but I want to play again. It was so much fun having the leader and all those kind of things. So awesome. Thanks everybody. That's our new format here, the 5 live reviews. So now I got to get 5 more games. I got to play 5 more games and then I'll review 5 more games for you here on Step Into the Portal with 5 live. So these will probably be something like once a month at most when I have this many games to cover at once. But there's that. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Have a great Thursday. I think it is the first day of the NCAA basketball tournament, so go Huskies, both men and women. That's UConn from Connecticut. That is where I live, so hope they do well. All right. Thanks, everybody. My name is the Brandt. Until next time, I hope you step into the portal. Bye.